Listen to me now, not with your ears alone, but with the deepest place inside you, because this moment is not an accident, and this breath you are breathing is not wasted. You did not stumble into this hour by chance. You are not standing where you are because of luck, coincidence, or human strength. There is a reason you have survived what should have destroyed you, a reason you are still standing when others counted you out, a reason your heart still beats with hope even after disappointment tried to silence it. God did not bring you this far to fail. God did not carry you through the fire to abandon you in the ashes. God did not wake you up today just to watch your life collapse. Something eternal is unfolding in your story, and it demands that you pay attention now. There were nights when you thought you would not make it. Nights when the weight of your thoughts was heavier than your body. When sleep escaped you and fear sat beside you like an unwanted guest. You questioned your purpose, your direction, your worth. You wondered if all the prayers you whispered into the darkness had vanished into silence. But you are still here. Through every tear, every setback, every betrayal, every closed door, God was not absent. God was active. God was shaping you in places you could not see, strengthening you in ways you did not understand, preparing you for a future that required endurance you did not yet possess. Do not insult the faithfulness of God by believing that your present struggle is the end of your story. God does not start what God does not intend to finish. When God places a vision in a heart, God also provides the strength to carry it. When God allows a test, God has already prepared a way through it. You may feel weary, but weariness is not defeat. You may feel delayed, but delay is not denial. You may feel broken, but brokenness in the hands of God becomes a doorway to power you never knew you had. Look back for a moment, not to live in the past, but to recognize the pattern of God's faithfulness in your life. There were moments you should have lost your mind, yet peace found you. There were times you should have been destroyed, yet you were preserved. There were seasons when resources ran dry, yet somehow you survived. That was not your intelligence. That was not your connections. That was not human intervention. That was God, quietly proving again and again that your life is under divine care. God has never wasted a single tear you cried. Every disappointment carved depth into your spirit. Every rejection redirected you away from what could not sustain you. Every delay trained your patience and sharpened your faith. What you thought was punishment was preparation. What you thought was loss was protection. God was removing what could not go where God is taking you. And now, standing where you are, with scars that tell stories of survival, you must understand this truth with unshakable conviction. God did not bring you this far to fail. There are voices around you, and sometimes within you, that try to convince you that it is over, that you are too old, too late, too weak, too flawed. But those voices do not speak with the authority of God. God's voice does not crush hope. It restores it. God's voice does not paralyze you with fear. It calls you forward with purpose. When God speaks, mountains move, seas open, and hearts awaken to possibilities that once seemed impossible. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not limited by your past. You are not disqualified by your failures. God specializes in transforming broken beginnings into powerful outcomes. God writes stories that defy logic, stories where weakness becomes strength and loss becomes victory. If God has sustained you this long, it is because there is more ahead of you. If God has kept you breathing, it is because your assignment is not finished. There will be moments when you feel alone, but you are never abandoned. There will be moments when you feel confused, but God is not confused about you. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed, But God is not overwhelmed by what overwhelms you. The same power that brought you through yesterday is still at work today, and it will not fail you tomorrow. Do not surrender now. Do not quit in the middle of the journey. Do not give up when you are closer than you realize. The greatest breakthroughs often come after the longest battles. The brightest dawn often follows the darkest night. God's timing is not random, it is precise. What feels slow to you is strategic in the hands of God. You were not created to merely survive. You were created to stand as evidence of God's faithfulness. Your life is meant to testify, even without words, that God restores, God redeems, God strengthens, and God completes what God begins. Every step you have taken, even the painful ones, has been leading you here to this moment where you must decide whether you will trust fear or trust God. God sees what you cannot see. God knows what you do not know. God understands the full picture when you only see fragments. When you feel like giving up, God is calling you to stand. When you feel like retreating, God is urging you to move forward. When you feel like you have nothing left, God is ready to show you that divine strength begins where human strength ends. You have been tested, but you have not been defeated. You have been shaken, but you have not been destroyed. You have been pressed, but you have not been crushed. There is resilience in you that was placed there by God. There's endurance in you that cannot be explained by human logic. There is hope rising in you right now, because truth has a way of awakening what fear tried to bury. God did not bring you this far to let your life end in disappointment. God did not invest this much grace, this much protection, this much mercy into your journey just to abandon you at the edge of fulfillment. You are standing on the threshold of something greater than what you have known, and though it may not look the way you imagined, it will carry the weight of God's purpose. Stop measuring your progress by comparing yourself to others. God's plan for you is not a copy of someone else's story. God moves uniquely in every life. What matters is not how fast you move, but that you continue to move forward in trust. Even slow steps taken in faith are powerful when God is guiding them. There are lessons you could not have learned without pain. There is wisdom you could not have gained without struggle. There is depth in your spirit that only comes from enduring what you once thought would destroy you. God allowed the pressure not to break you, but to reveal what was already inside you. You may not feel strong, but strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is simply choosing to get up again. Sometimes strength is choosing hope when despair feels easier. Sometimes strength is trusting God even when answers do not come quickly. And every time you choose faith over fear, you align yourself with the unstoppable purpose of God. The road has not been easy, and it was never promised to be, but it has been purposeful. Every step is measured. Every tear has been seen. Every prayer has been heard. God has been with you in the valley, and God will not leave you on the mountain. What God has carried you through is proof that what lies ahead is worth the journey. God is calling you forward into responsibility. There is a sacred weight on your life, a divine expectation that rises not to burden you, but to awaken you. God does not elevate without intention, and God does not sustain without purpose. If you are still standing, it is because heaven has not finished its work in you. There will be days when the path ahead feels unclear, when answers do not arrive on your schedule, when silence tests your faith more than hardship ever did. But silence does not mean absence. Silence is often where God trains the soul to listen more deeply, to trust more fully, to walk by conviction rather than comfort. God is not obligated to explain every step, but God is faithful to guide those who choose obedience even when clarity is delayed. Understand this deeply. God is not intimidated by your questions, but God is inviting you to anchor yourself in trust rather than demand control. Control exhausts the spirit, trust strengthens it. When you release the illusion that you must understand everything, you make room for God to do what only God can do. Faith is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the decision to move forward despite it. There are moments when the weight you carry is not the trial itself, but the fear of how long it might last. Yet time does not weaken God's promise. What feels prolonged to you is not prolonged to God. God operates beyond clocks and calendars, shaping outcomes with precision that transcends human impatience. What matters is not how long the road is, but who walks it with you. You are being built from the inside out. God is not merely changing your circumstances. God is refining your character. Strength without wisdom collapses under pressure, but wisdom forged through endurance becomes unshakable. God is teaching you how to stand when emotions tremble, how to remain steady when outcomes are uncertain, how to choose faith even when feelings resist it. Do not mistake the resistance you face as a sign that you are off course. Often, resistance is confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. God allows opposition not to stop you, but to reveal what is within you. Every challenge tests whether your confidence rests in circumstances or in God. And every time you choose to trust God over fear, you grow stronger than before. There is a difference between exhaustion and surrender. Exhaustion asks for rest. Surrender abandons hope. God welcomes your need for rest, but God does not call you to surrender your calling. Even when you pause to recover, your purpose remains intact. God renews strength in ways that surprise you through quiet moments, unexpected encouragement, and a deep inner resolve that cannot be explained by logic alone. You were never meant to carry the future by yourself. God carries what you cannot. When the burden feels too heavy, it is an invitation to lean more fully into divine strength. Pride says, I must handle this alone. Faith says, God is my support. And when you choose faith, you discover that what once overwhelmed you no longer has power to define you. There are doors that closed not because you were rejected, but because God was protecting you from environments that would have limited your growth. Not every opportunity is a blessing, and not every loss is a setback. God removes what cannot sustain the future God has planned. What you mourn today may be the very thing that made room for what will restore you tomorrow. Your value has never been determined by outcomes. God does not measure you by success or failure as the world does. God sees obedience, humility, perseverance, and trust. Even when results are delayed, your faithfulness is not wasted. Every step taken in alignment with God's guidance is recorded in eternity, even if it is overlooked by people. There will be moments when you feel unseen, when your efforts seem unnoticed, when your faithfulness feels unrewarded. But God is the ultimate witness. God sees what is done in quiet obedience. God honors what is done with a sincere heart. What people ignore, God remembers. What people dismiss, God elevates in due time. Guard your heart against bitterness. Bitterness poisons faith and clouds discernment. God does not call you to carry resentment. God calls you to carry wisdom. Release what hurt you without allowing it to harden you. Strength is not proven by holding on to pain, but by allowing God to transform it into understanding and compassion. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where growth required you to be. God's timing is not rushed by comparison or pressured by expectation. When the moment arrives, it will be undeniable. Preparation will meet opportunity. And what once felt uncertain will align with clarity that brings peace rather than anxiety. Listen closely to the quiet conviction rising within you. That is not imagination. That is alignment. God often speaks not through noise, but through a steady inner knowing that guides your decisions when emotions fluctuate. Learn to trust that guidance. It has carried you this far, and it will not abandon you now. Your past does not disqualify you, it equips you. God wastes nothing. Every lesson learned, every failure endured, every correction received has sharpened your discernment and deepened your humility. You are wiser now, stronger now, more aware now than you were before. That growth is evidence that God has been at work, even when you doubted it. There is a calling on your life that requires resilience. God is preparing you not only to receive blessing, but to sustain it. Sudden success without inner stability collapses under pressure, but a grounded spirit stands firm. God is building foundations before unveiling outcomes, depth before elevation, character before recognition. When fear tells you to retreat, remember how far you have come. Remember the storms you survived, the strength you did not know you had, the grace that carried you through moments you thought would end you. That same grace is present now. God has not changed, and God's commitment to your journey has not diminished. You may not see the full picture yet, but you do not need to. Faith does not demand complete visibility. It requires trust in the one who sees all. Each step forward is enough. Each act of obedience matters. Each moment of trust aligns you more deeply with the purpose unfolding before you. God is shaping your legacy, not just your comfort. What you endure today is creating impact beyond what you can measure. Lives will be touched by your perseverance. Strength will be drawn from your example. Hope will rise because you chose not to give up. God often uses one life of faithfulness to ignite courage in many others. God does not rush the work of transformation, because what God builds to last must be rooted deep. Shallow roots cannot survive strong winds, but deep roots stand firm through every storm. What you are becoming matters more than what you are acquiring, and God is far more invested in the strength of your spirit than the speed of your progress. There is a sacred discipline. God is teaching you the discipline of endurance. Endurance is not passive waiting. It is active trust. It is choosing to remain faithful when emotions fluctuate, choosing integrity when shortcuts tempt you, choosing patience when frustration demands quick relief. God is shaping a steadiness within you that cannot be shaken by circumstances. That steadiness will carry you into places where instability would have destroyed you. Do not underestimate the power of consistency. God honors steady faith more than dramatic moments. Quiet obedience builds strength over time. Daily trust forms a foundation that sudden inspiration cannot replace. You are not required to be perfect. You are required to be faithful. And faithfulness, practiced day after day, becomes a force that reshapes destiny. There will be moments when the world around you celebrates things that leave the soul empty. God is teaching you discernment, how to recognize what looks appealing but lacks substance. How to walk away from what promises quick satisfaction but delivers long-term regret. True fulfillment flows from alignment with God, not from applause, accumulation, or approval. Your spirit knows when something is not aligned, even if your mind tries to justify it. Pay attention to that inner signal. God often warns gently before consequences speak loudly. Obedience protects you from pain you do not yet see. Trusting God's direction now saves you from regret later. You may feel pressure to prove yourself, to justify your worth, to defend your journey, but God is your vindication. When you walk in truth, time reveals what words cannot. God does not need you to argue your value. God establishes it through outcomes that speak for themselves. Stay focused on your assignment, not on the noise around it. The seasons of obscurity are not punishment, they are protection. God hides what is not yet ready to be exposed. Growth happens best away from constant evaluation. Roots deepen in silence. Strength develops when no one is watching. And when the time is right, what God has cultivated in secret will stand confidently in the open. Let go of the need to rush what God is carefully shaping Impatience fractures blessings. Alignment preserves them. What arrives before you are prepared becomes a burden rather than a gift. God's timing ensures that when something enters your life, you have the wisdom to sustain it. You are learning how to listen beyond emotion. Emotions are powerful, but they are not always truthful. God's guidance remains steady even when feelings fluctuate. Learning to trust divine direction over emotional reaction is part of spiritual maturity. It keeps you anchored when situations try to pull you off course. There is authority growing within you, not the authority of dominance, but the authority of clarity. Clarity brings peace. When you know who you are and who guides you, confusion loses its grip. God is establishing clarity in your decisions, in your boundaries, in your understanding of what truly matters. What once triggered fear will no longer control you. What once intimidated you will no longer silence you. God is strengthening your inner resolve. Confidence rooted in God does not boast. It stands firm. It does not seek validation. It moves with assurance. It does not crumble under pressure. It becomes refined by it. You will encounter moments when your progress challenges others. Not everyone will understand your path, and not everyone will celebrate your growth. Guard your heart against resentment. God did not call you to carry offense. God called you to carry purpose. Stay aligned with God's approval, and human misunderstanding will not distract you. Forgiveness will be required, not because others deserve it, but because your spirit needs freedom. Holding onto anger binds you to the past. Releasing it allows you to move forward unburdened. God heals not only by changing circumstances, but by restoring inner peace that nothing external can disturb. Your journey is teaching you how to depend on God rather than outcomes. Outcomes change. God remains constant. When your trust is anchored in something unchanging, uncertainty loses its power. You learn to move forward even when results are not immediate, confident that obedience itself is success in the eyes of God. There is wisdom being poured into you through experience. Wisdom that cannot be learned from books alone. Wisdom that comes from navigating disappointment without losing faith, from enduring hardship without surrendering hope, from standing firm when retreat would have been easier. That wisdom will guide you in moments when logic alone falls short. Do not romanticize the past or fear the future. God is present now. This moment holds instruction, opportunity, and strength for today. Carry what you have learned, but do not live backward. God's work is always moving forward, always inviting growth, always calling you higher in understanding and trust. When doubts arise, confront them with truth. Doubt grows when left unchallenged. Truth restores perspective. Remind yourself of how many times you were sustained, protected, redirected, and strengthened. Those memories are evidence. God's track record in your life is your reassurance for what lies ahead. You are not walking alone, even when the road feels solitary. God's presence does not depend on crowds or confirmation. Some paths are intentional, narrow because distraction would derail focus. Solitude refines purpose. Quiet sharpens discernment. And through it all, God remains near. The future does not demand fear. It requires preparation. God is equipping you with discernment, patience, resilience, and humility. These qualities will matter more than talent when responsibility increases. What you are becoming now will determine how you steward what arrives later. Trust the process without idolizing the outcome. God is not merely delivering you to a destination. God is shaping who you are along the way. The journey itself is sacred. Every step carries meaning. Every delay carries instruction. Every challenge carries potential for growth. As you continue forward, let gratitude guard your heart. Gratitude keeps perspective aligned. It reminds you of how far you have come without minimizing how far you are going. Gratitude anchors joy even in unfinished seasons. God honors a thankful spirit because it reflects trust rather than entitlement. You are learning now that faith is not a feeling, it is a posture. Feelings rise and fall, but posture determines direction. When your posture is rooted in trust, even your weakest steps move you forward. God honors the decision to keep walking even when the heart feels tired. Movement in faith, no matter how slow, is still movement toward fulfillment. There is a refining fire in this season, not meant to consume you, but to clarify you. God removes distractions that once felt necessary. God strips away dependencies that once felt comforting. What remains is a clearer vision, a quieter confidence, and a deeper reliance on divine guidance. Refinement is uncomfortable, but it is always purposeful. God refines what God intends to use with power. Pay attention to how your desires are changing. What once satisfied you may no longer appeal to you. What once excited you may now feel empty. This is not loss, this is alignment. God reshapes desire so that your heart no longer chases what cannot fulfill your calling. When desire aligns with purpose, life gains direction without strain. You are being trained to discern between urgency and importance. Not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy. God teaches focus by removing noise. When distractions fade, clarity strengthens, and with clarity comes peace, the kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances, but rests in trust. There will be moments when obedience requires you to stand alone. Not everyone will understand your restraint, your patience, or your refusal to compromise. But solitude with God is safer than agreement without alignment. What you protect now will preserve your future. God honors those who choose conviction over convenience. Do not confuse stillness with stagnation. Some of the greatest work God does happens beneath the surface. Seeds grow in silence. Foundations are laid underground. What appears quiet may be deeply active. God often works invisibly before results become undeniable. Your life is being shaped into a testimony of endurance. Not endurance that hardens the heart, but endurance that deepens compassion. You will understand others more clearly because you have known struggle. You will speak with wisdom because you have walked through uncertainty. God uses lived experience to bring credibility to purpose. There's a humility growing within you that will guard you from pride when success arrives. God prepares the heart before opening doors. Humility keeps you grounded when recognition comes. It reminds you that progress is not self-made, but divinely guided. And humility attracts further guidance because it remains teachable. Let go of the fear that you must have everything figured out. God does not reveal the entire path at once because trust grows step by step. Each step taken in faith strengthens the next. Certainty is built through obedience, not before it. You do not need full understanding to move forward, only willingness. There are lessons you are learning now that will one day help you navigate greater responsibility. Pressure trains discernment. Waiting sharpens patience. Delays cultivate wisdom. God is equipping you for what lies ahead by strengthening qualities that cannot be rushed. You are becoming more selective, not because you are hardened, but because you are aware. Awareness protects peace. Awareness guards purpose. God teaches you when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait, when to hold on and when to release. Discernment is a gift that grows through experience. Your faith is maturing. It no longer depends on immediate results or visible confirmation. It rests in trust, even when outcomes are unseen. This kind of faith is stable, resilient, and grounded. God trusts those who trust God beyond what can be proven. Do not be discouraged when growth feels uncomfortable. Expansion often stretches what once felt secure. God enlarges capacity before increasing responsibility. What feels unfamiliar now will soon feel natural. Growth always requires adjustment before it brings ease. There is a strength developing in your restraint. Not every battle requires response. Not every challenge requires confrontation. God teaches you to conserve energy for what truly matters. Peace is preserved not by winning every argument, but by choosing wisely where to invest your spirit. Your past no longer defines your direction. Lessons remain, but chains are broken. God redeems history by transforming it into wisdom rather than regret. You are not moving forward as the person you were. You are moving forward as the person you are becoming. Stay grounded in truth when emotions fluctuate. Emotions are indicators, not commanders. God's truth remains steady when feelings shift. Learning to respond from conviction rather than reaction strengthens spiritual authority. You will notice that what once intimidated you no longer holds the same power. Fear loses influence when faith grows roots. God replaces anxiety with clarity, confusion with understanding, and hesitation with quiet confidence. You are not fearless, you are faithful, and that faith steadies you. There is an invitation in this season to trust deeper, to surrender control more fully, to rest in the knowledge that God's oversight does not fail. Control seeks certainty. Trust embraces guidance. God does not require you to manage the outcome, only to remain aligned with the direction. As you continue forward, remain attentive to gratitude. Gratitude keeps the heart open. It prevents entitlement from taking root. It reminds you that progress itself is a gift. God honors gratitude because it reflects awareness of divine provision. You are moving toward a future that will demand wisdom, humility, and strength. What is being formed in you now will sustain you then. God does not rush preparation because what lies ahead carries weight. There is a moment in every journey when faith must mature beyond comfort. Comfort seeks reassurance. Mature faith seeks alignment. God is inviting you to trust without needing constant affirmation. This level of trust does not shout, it stands. It does not demand signs at every step. It walks with confidence rooted in the character of God. This is where spiritual authority is formed. Notice how your reactions are changing. What once provoked panic now invites reflection. What once stirred anger now calls for discernment. This is growth. God is teaching you to respond from wisdom rather than impulse. Power is not found in reaction, but in restraint guided by truth. You are learning that obedience is not weakness, it is strength under control. When you choose alignment over impulse, you protect the future God is building through you. Obedience sharpens perception. It clears confusion. It keeps the heart sensitive to guidance. God entrusts greater clarity to those who honor direction even when it challenges desire. There is a sacred courage being formed within you, that courage to wait without resentment, to move without fear, to stand without applause. This courage does not come from certainty of outcome, but from confidence in God's oversight. You are learning that approval from people is temporary, but alignment with God is sustaining. Do not allow past disappointments to narrow your expectations. God's capacity to restore exceeds your capacity to imagine. What ended did not define you, it redirected you. What closed was not a conclusion, it was a refinement. God does not remove without replacing, and God does not empty without intending to refill with something stronger, wiser, and more enduring. Your patience is being tested because patience is required where you're going. God prepares you for environments that demand emotional stability, discernment, and humility. What seems delayed is often developing the endurance necessary to remain steady when responsibility increases. You are becoming more aware of the difference between noise and instruction. Not every voice deserves your attention. God sharpens discernment by teaching you to listen selectively. Clarity comes when you silence what distracts you from what guides you. Peace returns when focus is restored. There is a quiet confidence rising within you that does not rely on outcomes to feel secure. This confidence is not pride, it is assurance rooted in trust. God replaces insecurity with identity. When you know who guides you, uncertainty loses its grip. You will find that your standards are rising, not because you are becoming rigid, but because you are becoming intentional. God elevates perspective before elevating position. What you tolerate now shapes what you experience later. Discernment protects what distraction would destroy. There will be moments when progress feels invisible. Do not be deceived by silence. Growth often happens where it cannot yet be measured. God works beneath the surface long before results appear. Trust the unseen work as much as you desire the visible outcome. Your strength is being recalibrated. It is no longer drawn from striving, but from surrender. Surrender does not mean passivity. It means cooperation with divine direction. When you release what you cannot control, you gain peace where anxiety once lived. God is teaching you to move forward without carrying unnecessary weight. Regret, guilt, resentment, these are burdens not meant for the journey ahead. Release them. Wisdom remains without the weight of shame. God restores by lightening the load so you can walk freely. You are no longer driven by fear of failure. You are guided by trust and purpose. Failure loses its power when purpose is clear. Even setbacks become teachers rather than threats. God turns obstacles into instruction and resistance into refinement. There is an invitation in this season to trust the process without rushing the promise. God values depth over speed. What matures slowly lasts longer. What is built patiently remains standing. You are being shaped for longevity, not momentary success. As you continue, let humility remain your companion. Humility keeps the heart open and the spirit teachable. God directs those who remain willing to learn. Pride resists correction. Humility receives guidance. Your faith is no longer fragile. It has been tested, stretched, and strengthened. It has endured unanswered questions and unresolved seasons. This faith is not theoretical. It is lived. God honors faith that has walked through uncertainty and remained standing. Do not look back with longing or forward with fear. Stay present with trust. God is active now. This moment is not a pause in purpose. It is part of it. Every breath carries intention. Every step carries meaning.